Hey, what's up, RyzeUP community? This week, we're gonna be tackling the kitchen, and we're gonna be going in depth into a lot of different things. We're gonna be covering oven skills. We're gonna be covering cutting skills, using the knife and getting really comfortable with that. We're gonna be covering stovetop. We're gonna be covering sauces. We're gonna be covering just so many things. So let's just dive in and get started. And then I'm gonna come back through 2 times, cutting it into thirds, and then I'm gonna grab with that thumb and pinky, and then I'm gonna create a little triad on the top with this middle finger being the guide. And then I'm just going to slice on down, and I'm gonna do this rocking motion with the blade as I guide back with that middle finger until I get all the way back to the end. Then I turn that last bit over and slide through. So the tip with this, and now I have a perfectly diced onion. So the tip with this is to really get that rocking motion. You're pushing into the cutting board and you're rocking back through. Make sure to go all the way down and come back. You're not just chopping. We're gonna go over that technique here as well. But that is how you dice a onion perfectly in less than 10 seconds. All right, next we're gonna cover slicing. So we got our little cherry tomatoes here. And so you could either cut into these and quarter them, or one thing that's really fun to do for presentation is to just use the tip of the blade, and you're just gonna rock through, and you're gonna push down with the point, and you're gonna just drag it back. Push down with the point and drag it back. Make sure that your hands are out of the way, your fingers are out of the way, and you're just coming through, slicing into that cherry tomato. Then the other way you could do that is you could quarter it, but you can see I'm doing the same technique. I'm pushing down into the cutting board and then drawing back. All right, next thing we're gonna tackle here is mincing. So we got garlic. So a lot of people don't know this little handy trick, which is to use the side of the blade, and I'm gonna push down. Yeah, perfect, and you're gonna hear that crunch. And so basically what that does is that immediately releases the garlic from the outside, and it's really fast. Now, mincing garlic, I'm gonna use the little tip of the blade, and I'm just gonna come through here, and I'm just gonna chop in, and then I'm gonna cut it very similarly to how I was slicing the onion, and then I'm gonna come back through really rapidly, brushing off the side of the knife, and there we go. Minced garlic, ready to rock. All right, next technique we got here is called chopping. So this one is probably the one that most people are familiar with and also scares people because it's a lot more aggressive. And so the trick with chopping is to really be forceful, like get out of your own way and just allow the knife to do the work. So I have this zucchini here, and I'm just gonna break it down into a little bit more manageable pieces. So I'm gonna cut it in half. Move that other half to the side, so I got half the zucchini here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be coming through here and I'm gonna cut it in half. And then I'm gonna put the 2 pieces next to each other. So this is gonna allow me to cut both at the same time. So this is a great little tip. So when you're cutting vegetables, I'm not gonna cut all these into 8ths and then just do one and then another one. I'm gonna do both at the same time. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a knife, and I'm just basically gonna come down and I'm gonna chop into the zucchini, and I'm just gonna run it back. So it's gonna look like this. There you go. Then you got a chopped zucchini ready to rock. All right, so one thing I've seen people struggle a lot with is cutting bigger things like sweet potatoes, because they don't know really how to get at them. So I'm gonna give you a quick tip about cutting thick and dense things like this. So one thing, you could either cut it all the way through and cut it into big manageable pieces, which totally a great way to go about it. But then you're gonna have to go through and you're gonna have to address each individual piece. So what I like to do is I like to take the point of the blade in the middle, and I'm gonna push straight down into the cutting board. Then now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull back, and that's gonna bifurcate and cut this guy in half, and now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So I'm gonna take this knife straight through, all the way down, and then pull back. And that's a quick way how you can cut big, dense vegetables in half. So this is a great trick to when you're home and you have 15 minutes to make dinner, 15, 20 minutes to make dinner, and you don't know what you're making. This is a great little trick that you can do. And as long as you're using the right type of ingredients that are gonna cook around the same amount of time, this is a fantastic little kitchen hack for if you struggle with making food on the fly. This is a super secret weapon of mine. So we're gonna pile up this baking sheet with a bunch of delicious ingredients, and we're just gonna pop it in the oven and set it and forget it. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna turn on that oven to 400 and load it up. Drizzle on probably about 2-3 tablespoons of avocado oil. And then now we're gonna season it up with a bunch of seasonings. I'm gonna put on here salt, basil, thyme, oregano, and pepper. All right, I got everything seasoned up, and now I'm just gonna pop her in the oven. Go ahead, I'm gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. And that's it, dinner's gonna be ready. So the real trick with the oven is understanding what temperature things really cook down at. So for things like vegetables, root vegetables, when you're dealing with like broccoli and things like that, you're gonna be looking at like 400 degrees. Sweet potatoes, same thing, potatoes, same thing. With meats, you're looking at like 350 to 375 if that's all I was cooking. And also for like baking, you're gonna see at like 325 to 375. So depending on what you're cooking is really understanding what temperature you need to set things at. So usually a good range or good metric is around 350 to 400 is where most of the things you're gonna cook are gonna live in the oven. Look at that, that looks amazing. Roasted vegetables, roasted garlic, roasted chicken. I'm just gonna take a fork and I'm gonna check the potatoes. Yep, those are perfect. Sweet potatoes, yep, those are perfect. You don't want it to be too mushy and you don't want it to be too soft. And then I'm gonna use a meat thermometer just to check the internal temperature of this chicken. You can take out the pan or take out the chicken and check it a little bit earlier on if you're ever worried if it's cooking too fast. One of the things with chicken breast that a lot of people hate is if it gets overcooked, it's super dry. And we don't want that. We don't want overcooked chicken. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you could marinate tofu and you could grill this up the same way. You would just cut it up and you would put it in little slices on the same baking sheet and it would cook up in the same amount of time. And there you have it. A beautiful, delicious, one sheet pan meal. And all you'd have to do is add a few more chicken breasts on there and a little bit more of the vegetables and you could cook for an entire family in 20 minutes.